Hey folks, you're watching Indie Music Phoenix. This is Shane Matsumoto. I'm here with David Ellefson, formerly of Megadeth, but now with Avion, Temple of Brutality, F5, Killing Machine. Tell us about your projects and which ones are your main projects and what are your side projects?
F5 is my main project. It actually has been since the group formed in 2003, and most of us, initially we were all based here in Phoenix, but we recently had a drummer change on the new record, and my buddy Jimmy DeGrasso came into play on it. So he lives up in San Jose. So still four of us are from Phoenix. That's been my main one, and I get a lot of calls to be involved in things, and I'm one of these guys that I like starting things from the ground up. You know, I kind of like to have at least part ownership of things, and you know, to me that's the thrill of it. And by ownership I mean you're helping kind of, you know, form something from the ground up, being part of that whole creative process. Regardless of who's writing the material, I'm usually a writer in most of them, but not all of them. And like the Avion thing, I was really called in to be the producer, and then helped write some stuff. And then when I called in Lance King, who's a vocalist out of Minneapolis, at one point I actually had to hand the rest of the production off to him to finish mixing and finish the production, because I was busy. They knew that F5 record at that time was just being completed, so I was, you know, getting distracted over there, and I wanted to make sure that the Avion thing was put together. But it's awesome because now Lance is the singer of Avion, so it kind of helped complete the lineup.
Are you shopping for a major label, or do you like being indie? What's with F5?
You know, everything I do really, I think, you know, it's a different way to do it. You know, in days of yore, you would make sort of a 3-song demo, you'd chop that around, you'd try to get signed. You know, in this day and age, what I'm finding is that you pretty much need to make the entire record and then just go do a 7 or 10-year license on that. And then that way the rights will always revert back. So that's why, you know, through my Ellefson music production company and various things, you know, I usually license those out, and then that way we retain the ownership of them, and we can do our publishing deals off of that, so that the songwriters get paid.
I used to suffer and hate to feel complete.
So in essence, is that like staying indie but getting distribution deals, and so that you can still maintain the publishing rights and stuff like that? Is that kind of how that works?
It is, yeah. And I mean, look, is it great to go get the big fat check and be able to make your record and do all that, and they'll just let the label deal with everything? Of course it is. That's awesome. But you know, I think in this day and age, those deals have gotten much smaller. They usually are only interested in acts that have a very, you know, a long-term built-in fan base, sort of a guaranteed number of units that are going to be sold. And as much as, you know, me and now Jimmy DeGrasso come from a, you know, a certain pedigree of you know, the metal, you know, genre, you know, F5 is still a fairly new band, and we've got a, you know, pretty good presence, and I think we're pretty identified with F5 now. But still, you know, it has to live and breathe on its own. And but you know, this time around has really, I think we've improved our position considerably, especially with a label like SPV, and even with Orphan. I mean, you can go to any Best Buy, you know, anywhere across the country, and the F5 record is there, and of course on iTunes and all the, you know, the other digital distribution channels as well. And the digital side is big, and I mean, to me iTunes is really, it's the main one. Then of course there's Rhapsody and, you know, a whole bunch of other ones. But you know, in this day and age, I think record labels are trying to find out how many of these widgets do we need to actually manufacture when a lot of people are just going to go online. I buy most of my music online anymore. One thing I do miss is you know, being able to get the artwork. So as we were making the new F5 record, we're very, you know, I as a kid growing up, you know, my musical stuff started, you know, in the late 70s and whatnot. So I mean, 12-inch records, and I just loved getting the you know, all the artwork. So even on the F5 records, we do, you know, we go through the whole thing, and we go through the time and the expense to really make a nice package.
Especially on those LPs, you know, back in the day, man. That was part of the whole package, was to sit down with the lyrics and the and the art and just experience the music, you know. Yeah. And
I remember, you know, I remember joining Columbia House Records at one time. Remember? 13 records for a penny?
Yeah. And then you had to buy 6 more at like $20 a piece.
Yeah, $20 a piece. Yeah, right. One record's only cost $6.99 at the local record shop. And I remember, you know, the ones that you'd usually get from there, you know, like I remember getting like, I don't know, you know, Boston record or whatever, and you know, or Pat Travers or something. I forgot, it was some record that I got, and And you know, at the one you buy at the store had the nice insert, all the lyrics, and yeah, and the one you get from Columbia House is just a white jack, just like gets completely ripped off here. What is this, you know?
Would your old school fans like your new project, F5?
You know, I think so. I think they like the new record a lot more. I think the first record was probably a little too modern sounding for them. You know, there's this trend of, oh, bring back the old school, and you know, and that's, you know, two words I don't even like, old and school. You know, so I don't know what this.
Would you rather me say Megadeth?
Yeah, I mean, and look, I realize coming out of a band for a long time, I'm very much identified with being that guy in that band, and I get that. I mean, again, as a fan growing up, you know, when new Kiss members came in and finally the makeup came off, it's like it just wasn't even the same deal. So I mean, I get that. Or Tom Peterson left Cheap Trick for a while. You know, he was one of my favorite bass players. Yeah, I didn't even listen to Cheap Trick. You know what I mean? So I didn't listen to anything he did either. So I get that. You know, I get that, how that whole thing ties together. So I try to be very aware of that. And I think with you know, with F5, my goal with F5 was just, we got in a room, we wrote some tunes, it just felt really good. You know, we're grinning ear to ear like a bunch of kids out in the garage again playing, and just that spirit is what we tried to carry through with it. And I think with the new record, to their credit, our guitar players Steve and John really wanted to get really into some really intricate progressive guitar playing. Everybody in the band plays really good, so that was a big goal with it, was to get that side of it. So enter Jimmy DeGrasso as a drummer that he is, really helped us pull the the musical stuff up to the level that we wanted.
Any favorite hot spots for you here in Arizona?
You know, I mean, U.S. Airways, you know, I mean, that's a good venue to play, you know, but the Dodge Theater is really a great place to play. You know, F5, we did a show a few months back over at Club Red. It's cool, kind of a hidden little gem of a club. Sounded real good, stage sounded good. You know, we did some shows a few years ago over at the venue of Scottsdale, and that was, you know, a cool venue. It's, you know, sounded good. The photos looked good from it. You know what I mean? So, you know, people seemed to be engaged in what was happening, you know. So it was, you know, again, I think a lot of it, and I kind of reference back to a tour I did years ago. I think it was in '98, where we flew up from Buenos Aires, Argentina, did just a big, I think like a stadium kind of show. Flew up, and the next, like 2 days later, played a radio show for up in Detroit. It was like a Christmas show up at the Palace of Auburn Hills, which is where the Pistons play. And I mean, you go from southern, hemisphere, all that is, up to Detroit, which is a completely different culture. They were both totally cool as long as you appreciate what both of them are, and you kind of can as a performer, as a traveling performer, kind of getting hip to what's going on around it, going from the sunny, balmy, warm weather to freezing cold Detroit and Christmas, But all of a sudden, you're in North America and it's Christmas and snow and Santa and Christmas trees, and it's like, wow, this is cool to be home, So it's cool to have those experiences sometimes overnight of radically different cultures like that, and that's probably one of the biggest thrills of being an artist and a traveling performer.
You're killing me,